What's up guys, hope everyone is doing well. In this video I'm going to be going over some updates for Bitcoin, but nonetheless to go ahead and get it started here. First off, on the 6-hour chart, ever since Bitcoin has come down from around 108k, local low being around 91.3, roughly 16% at this point in time, as I was saying, pointing out this descending yellow zone here, which was acting as resistance back here, flipped into support, and then so far has also been acting as support. Could potentially be seeing a form of double bottom here, whereas if you go to, let's go to the daily, you can more so start to see it potentially look more concretely as a descending type of double bottom here, but it needs to be breaking this neckline right here of the orange box. Going back to the 6-hour. So as for that double bottom, I mean, either we're seeing, like I pointed out, we're seeing some form of descending double bottom like this, which you can characterize as a type 3. We're coming up to the neckline, and it needs to break this in order to continue to go higher. Or, as I pointed out, there is on the higher time frame a more clear descending double bottom that could be playing out. The neckline sits at around, I mean, realistically, 100k at the bottom, around like 98, basically 99k. Getting above 100k is going to be very important. And again, just to point this out, these vector zones here at 100k all the way up to around 105,000 need to be broken, or else they will act as resistance. And then there's also always a possibility that Bitcoin comes up here, finds support, comes back up to 108k, and then gets rejected from here and continues to go lower as well. Now, if it gets rejected at this neckline and comes back down, this W will likely be invalidated, may already be invalidated. There may actually not be a W here in the first place. Could come back down to this descending resistance here, and or descending support right now at least, and again find support here and then finally bounce back upwards. But also be depending upon when it happens. If it happens coming into contact with this purple range here, around 88 to around 91.2, lining up with the base of the price action ever since mid-November, as it was wavering up here, as I've been pointing out. If you look here at the RSI, you can see there's been a descending resistance going all the way back to mid-November, ever since around November, late November, mid-December, these two being rejections. Currently, you can see that the RSI is sitting right on it right now. It's a tad bit above it, could potentially be breaking above it here, breaking above this orange zone and continuing to go higher. We see the same thing here on the MACD as well. We can also see that it is just ever so slightly broken this resistance, very similar to the RSI. So this could be potentially shaping up in a positive sentiment to continue to see the price go higher here. If we zoom all the way out to segment off and show the entire bull run since back here, late November, December 2022, as I pointed out, there's an important zone here around negative 1420 on the MACD. There's also one here around negative 2451, which there was support multiple times throughout this descending broadening channel or wedge. This healthy consolidation Bitcoin saw for around 8 to 9 months. When Bitcoin dropped from around 70,000 all the way down to around 49k in early August, we saw the MACD went all the way down at its lowest, down to around negative 4436. Recently, the MACD has gone below the second most zone here at around negative 2472. So it is quite pulled back here. It's retraced quite a lot, with the price still being quite high, but yet the MACD is lower than every single instance outside of when it went to 49k. So if it gets rejection here on the MACD, with this resistance that I pointed out, looking at the RSI as well, this could see the MACD move down to this pink zone here, the lowermost trend at around negative 4369. And that really, that could be correlated to a move, just down to, this yellow or orange zone, or yellow or purple zone here, and then it finds a bounce, or that could For example, whenever Bitcoin crashed from around 60, basically 70K at the beginning of August until like leading into the first, roughly almost the end of the first week of August, it was a 30% pullback. Let's say something similar happens again from where Bitcoin currently is. A 30% pullback would take it all the way down to around 68.5 to 69K, which I believe actually would line up roughly with the descending resistance here for the prior consolidation Bitcoin was in. Yeah, I mean, that would roughly line up. I mean, it would test that once more. I don't think that's most likely at this point. And now, as I've been saying, as long as it doesn't go significantly over like 40 to 45%, start pushing like 48, 50, or 50% or more in a pullback, then Bitcoin should still be in the green for a bull run. If you look here at the 12-hour chart, again, as I've been comparing the way that the price action behaved from here, around 33, 34K, late October 2023, as Bitcoin moved from this low down here around 25K in September 2023 to 75K in March of 2024. There was, as I pointed out, this just wavering gradual buildup, price action, very, very, very similar to what we have seen recently here. And I was calling out for it to look like this, or at least I thought it was more likely than not that we'd see something very similar around mid-November as this impulse was ending, and then it actually ended up playing out very, very nicely. And you can see with this fractal pattern or bar pattern overlaid on top, you can see right as Bitcoin is moving up to 108K, it was lining up with the point during the prior impulse going into 75K for Bitcoin, where it was finally starting to move from right here, late November 2023, around 37.4 all the way up to around basically 45K at the beginning of December of 2023. But instead, we did see the deviation, the current deviation that Bitcoin's been in, with this potential W happening right here, potentially bottoming out currently as long as it can break this neckline, continue to go higher, confirm support, and then actually continue to go past 108, 110, even higher. Now, if we look here at the this yellow zone here, this is a zone that I extracted from some two trend lines and some ascending rectangular zones. Basically, the gist of this, what I was trying to do, was just try to identify some sort of general broad range that kind of creates an ascending zone here of support going all the way back to 49K. And as I pointed out, it is this yellow zone here that I was able to extract from those four tools there, which somewhat coincides with the horizontal support here going back to November, late November, at around 93K, also going back down to the base of the current impulse. Lowest it goes down to, depending upon when it bottoms out, somewhere around just approximately 80,000. It also coincides with this vector zone here from around 80 to around 83,000. So if Bitcoin loses the support here and manages to not hold support here, then we could see Bitcoin come down and do something like this. You know, potentially best case scenario, it won't go any lower and it'll find support here and then continue to go back upwards. But again, as I said, it could definitely, because anything is possible, continue to go far lower. I mean, worst case scenario, I think somewhere like 60 to 65K is the bottom of the barrel. If it starts to go lower than 60K, then I think there's quite good reason to think that the bear run has already been started. The bear market is on its way. And 108K, unfortunately, you know, kind of a pipsqueak, you know, blow off top, if you want to call it that, or just bull run in general. Obviously, 108K, if it, let's say that this is the top here, 108K, roughly mid-December 2024, from the prior all-time high. We'll just take it from 64K. Would only have gone around 64% higher. I mean, if we compare that to, let's see, 2017, it's only 270% more towards the upside. 2013 to 2017, around 1700, 1800. Clearly, obviously, Bitcoin's bull runs and bear runs are becoming less severe over time. The bull markets are less bullish. bear markets are less bearish. The phases are lengthening, the cycles are lengthening. It's very clear structural pattern that you can derive after. You're really not even spending too much time, as long as you understand technical analysis and charts, to be able to extract that and derive that from the historical price action of Bitcoin. Now, the main thing that I want to point out on this chart is we look down here at the RVI. I was pointing out this ascending support here. Now, in the last update for Bitcoin, I was going over how the RVI line here was actually below the support, and I was saying that depending upon how the rest of the week goes, the prior weekly candle leading into currently with the new weekly candle just opening up about 2 hours ago, we could see this RVI move back above, and it does done exactly that, which I find very affirming and potentially confirming of the fact that Bitcoin has locally bottomed out and is going to continue to go higher above and far exceeding 108K over the next, let's just say, I think 6 to 9 months at most. Just generally, as I've been saying quite some time, and a lot of people are also saying this, that 2025 is more likely than not going to be when the Bitcoin tops out, when the altcoins top out, and the broad cryptocurrency market begins its next iteration of the bear market. So that's very nice to see there. On top of that, there's this zone here on the RVI at around basically 43. And you can see going all the way back to basically the beginning of September of 2022, right as Bitcoin was heading into the 16K low right here in this zone. You can see that the RVI had a nice move from the highly oversold territory, reclaimed the 50 line right here, and ever since then you can see it's just been trading in the bullish upper territory, which is why we've seen this impulsive structure here for Bitcoin. And ultimately you can see right here, this is going to be, if this plays out and it continues to go higher here, which I again think that's what we will be seeing over the next number of months, this will be looking like an impulse wave. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 up here, wherever it happens to end up topping out at. So again, so the main point here is this 43 value, and you can see ever since basically the beginning of the bull market, it has held this. It found support right here in September, late August, early September 2023, when Bitcoin bottomed out at around 25K, and then had a 3x all the way up to 75K in March of 2024. Again, it was also March, April when this first, look here, in this impulsive wave structure, this first impulse topped out March, April. The second one topped out March, April. So will we see something similar, and where Bitcoin will top out something along these lines in March of April? Or could it potentially extend to, I think, right now at latest I'm entertaining like late June, maybe early July, but depending upon how the future price goes and how it decides to print, it could even extend a little bit later. But right now, March, April, May, June is where I am still continuing to look for. I mean, looking all the way at April of 2024 as well, each of the local bottoms in this most recent healthy consolidation. So basically this would be the second correction of the impulse wave here, with this local low here in April, and this one in June, then July, and then August of 2024. You can see each of these instances down here, it was holding the 43 value on the RVI and continued to bounce there from 49.50K up to the current 108K local high of late December last year. And currently the new weekly candle has opened up, where we can see that it is currently green, which is good to be seeing. Although I mean, that could change, at any given time, maybe 5 hours shortly after this video comes out, and give it another week, maybe Bitcoin will see it, maybe it's setting a double top like this. Maybe it'll actually even go a little bit higher up to like 112K, and then come back down and reclaim somewhere in this vector zone that's not significantly below like 65 to 60K, so it can continue to maintain bull market structure and continue to go higher regardless of 40 to 45% retracement. If you look here at this 2-weekly chart, the fractal patterns or bar patterns here, we can see that, again, this is going to be mainly just talking about the impulsive structure that we've seen. Again, we have impulse 1 here. We have 2 with this first correction. Impulse 3. Here we have the second correction, and then impulse 5, I think, will end somewhere. Again, broad range, 170 to 250K. I mean, there's even reasons to think that it could potentially go up to maybe even 300K. If you look at this as a cup and handle pattern, and you take the percentage move here for this being basically like 340%, you take it from the breakout zone, 340% would bring it up to around almost $300,000 on the dot. So if this, let's say this is actually cup and handle, the cup and handle price target fulfills to a degree of 100%, then it could potentially push as high as almost right at 300K on the dot. But more so focusing on this impulsive structure, a lot of the times when people, or like if you're looking up, articles or guides as to the Elliott wave analysis, you'll see the notion that the impulsive waves typically, well, you'll have the first wave being bullish, a second wave that doesn't, which then leads into this third wave, which a lot of the times the third wave, you could say, generalizing it in the most traditional, I suppose, like textbook impulse waves, the third wave here, the second bullish leg, is the most bullish. You then have the second correction leading into 4, and then 5 is typically less bullish than this second wave here. But as I've demonstrated in past videos, it is quite clear that we're seeing Bitcoin, I think, perform something opposite, where we're seeing the first bullish leg, first correction, the third leg, which was bigger than the first, and seeing the second correction leading into 4. Then we're going to see the fifth wave, which I believe is going to be bigger than 3, such that 3 is bigger than 1. So I think the nature of the current impulsive structure of the current Bitcoin bull market is increasing with each bullish leg. Again, taking the price measurements from the bottom in November 2022 to the top of the first leg of the impulse, it was 100% from 25K to 75K. It was 196%, so basically 200%. So we're seeing from 100% to 200% now. Let's say 100, 200, next one's 300%, or maybe it's 100, 200, since maybe it's not just adding 100%, perhaps it's doubling. So 100, 200, next one would be 400. So as a range from bottom to top, 300% would take it basically right to 200K. 400% would take it to 248K, so basically 250K. So that creates a range of 200 to 250K, which further validates other analyses, which I'll get to an aspect of that on the next chart. But if we look here specifically at these fractal or bar patterns here, with this impulse, this is the first leg here. This impulse here would be the second leg from 25 to 75K. And then this right here is currently the beginning. So what I think more like than that is the first half of the current, the fifth wave of the impulsive structure that Bitcoin is seeing. And you'll notice that the structure of these is, the first leg, a very tiny short-lived correction, and then move towards the upside. You could look at it as, something like an ABC like movement structure. Again, we see the same thing here, just a tiny sideways, very minor short-lived correction, move towards the upside. You'll also notice that zooming in here, looking at the actual price, you'll see here, right here, late February 2023, you had this small bodied candle with some drastic wicks. We saw something very similar here, mid-January 2024, small bodied candle, some relatively drastic wicks. Again, it was just a 2-week period. Then the second, as you can see here, from around basically 20K all the way up to 32K for the first leg of the impulsive structure. And then here from around 38.7 all the way up to 75K for the second half of the second impulse of the overall bull market structure. So let's say that this right here, where Bitcoin currently is just where it was here in January of 2024 and where it was here in February of 2023. We're also seeing, again, a similarity. So seeing January, February 2023, fast forward, we see January, February 2024. fast forward, we're seeing January 2025 since 2023 every single year. It seems that Bitcoin is reaching each of these midpoints here in the overall impulse of the bullish legs of this 5-staged bull market structure. So we could very well see something play out where we'll see this, well, perhaps Bitcoin is beginning this final leg here. And again, something similar to with how this first impulse was 100%, this one was 200, and this next one might be anywhere from 300 to 400. But you take the measurement of this second half of the first leg was 58.73%. To do this one for the second leg, it was 91.46%. That would give the ratio of 1.237, which funnily enough is, Fibonacci 1.236, basically obviously the same, which gives a potential percentage move of the current, if this ends up playing out for Bitcoin, of 113%, which would take Bitcoin up to 196,000. So we could just round that up to 200K. Definitely could wick just a little bit higher. If we do something, another similarity between these two, and I believe what I did was take the first leg here, 96% of, so the first half of the second impulse for Bitcoin was 96%. If we look here at the current, or my bad, if we go to the first one here and look at this, it's 63.23%, 63%. Let's see, actually, I think it may have been this one here. No, it wasn't. Yeah, so that gives us a ratio of 1.557, giving us a potential move of 142%. So again, like I said, so 113% would take Bitcoin all the way up to somewhere around here, around basically 200K. 142% would then take Bitcoin somewhere to around 222,000. So again, that still is further validating somewhere within a broad range of approximately 200 to 300K. Also lining up with, I think, a very clearly deducible, again, this impulsive structure here that was been quite evidentiated in technical analysis, whether it's with cryptocurrencies, blockchain solutions, or traditional assets. Even if we go down to a lower time frame and look at the prior bull market, really just look here at this major parabolic portion of so from looking here at September 2020 all the way up to March, April 2021, 64K. We can also see something similar where we saw this first leg correction, second leg correction, and it slowly just kind of staggered its way up here. So this is also, to me, very reminiscent, and I think reasonably could be labeled as a 1, a 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Again, another impulsive structure for the most prior bull market that also topped out in March, April, May, June, just as each and every single high so far within the current bull market has as well, like I pointed out in April 2023, March, April 2023, same thing in 2024. Will we see the same thing in 2025? Again, we're also seeing the similarities between the midpoints of each of these legs in this impulsive structure being January, February, January, February. It's January, February again, 2 years out from the beginning of the bull market. Will we see, history rhyme and repeat? I think it's more likely than not at this point. If we look here at the final chart, this 2-weekly chart, this one's very interesting. Before I get to really the main thing, you'll see each of these Fibonacci retracements on the price. So with the one with the arrow, we'll see the horizontal lines going all the way back to July 2011. I've gone over this many times. A lot of you may already be familiar with this, but the bear market of phase 1 of cycle 2, where phase 1 is going to be this structure here for Bitcoin, topped out within the range of 2.184 to 2.3595, specifically at the 2.319. We do the same thing for phase 2 of cycle 2, which phase 2 is this price action right here. We will also see that the same Fibonacci retracement of the bear market, Bitcoin topped out 2017 right at that exact same range as well. And then if we apply this to phase 1 of cycle 3, which is the current cycle 1 for Bitcoin, phase 1 would be this price action here that we're seeing leading into the upcoming all-time high to end phase 1 of cycle 3, which is once again, this current high that that Bitcoin is heading into here is structurally synonymous to the high that was set back here in 2013. And again, the bear market retracement here, you can see brings this orange range up to 180K all the way up to around 250K. Again, further validating approximately 200K to 300K to broaden that range a little bit. And this is something that's clearly structurally valid and sound. I believe goes back all the way to 2011. We're looking about, 14, almost 14 years in the making here. This has been very, very accurate, very close in precision as well. But really what's also interesting is if you look at the vertical lines, the Fibonacci time tool, each of these are, I'll go ahead and get rid of these retracements here so we can more clearly see this. You'll notice that, so the time tool begins at the all-time high of 2011 in June, around $30, and I take it out to the first candle of the subsequent bull market that closed above the prior all-time high. So it's from June 2011 to February 2013. You can see the all-time high occurred specifically within, right in the middle of the 1.414 to the 1.541. Again, in November 2013. Broadly, you can see that starting at the 1.4 or 1.147 is when the first peak here of phase 1 of cycle 2 is met. If we look here at phase 2, beginning in December 2013, phase 2 cycle 2 here, we see again taking it from the all-time high to the candle that closed above in December 2016. We also see that beginning at the 1.147, this was shortly after Bitcoin finally broke the prior all-time high. It was then entering its final its most parabolic thrust of the bull markets, topped out right in the middle of the 1.236 to the 1.414. We look here at phase 1 of cycle 3, again from the all-time high of 2017 to the candle close above that prior all-time high in November 2020. We can see that 69K was right in between the 1.236 to 1.414, so exactly what was seen in December 2017, and the 64K high was literally right on top of and in alignment with the 1.147. So again, what we are seeing here is that the time tool from 1.147 to 1.414 or up to 1.541, depending upon what phase of cycle you're looking at. This is very similar to the price retracement of that orange range that I was mentioning before. This is creating a historically accurate and verifiable period of time to look forward to seeing Bitcoin top out. Now let's go ahead and zoom in to the most recent price action from 64 to 69K. The double top was set. Bitcoin bottomed out here, 16K late 2022. So we're going to take a time tool from November of 2021 at 69K. Well, the candle closed at 62K. Either or, it doesn't matter since it's a time tool, and then take it out to the first candle that closed above in March of 2024, and that puts the 1.147 was in July 15th of last year, 2024. Clearly, Bitcoin didn't top out then; it's gone higher. It's also right now currently right with 100K sits right at basically right in the middle of the 1.236 to the 1.414. That is where it topped out, like right here, 2021 at 69K. Again, that's where it topped out in 2017. So, could 108K potentially be the all-time high for the current bull market? The possibility is definitely there. I don't think that's not my bias. That's not what I lean towards. But generally, the range here began at July of 2024 and at the 1.541 ends in June. I also have the 1.618 on here as well, just to extend it because it is the golden ratio and is important. And it's also where this top landed here back for this first leg. So I thought that was interesting at the 618. So that's broad range, again, July of 2024 to August of 2025. So we're basically seeing a year time frame where we could be expecting Bitcoin to top out here. Again, it could be currently. I don't think that's what's most likely. The 1.414 to the 1.541 just so happens to line up with the range that I was mentioning earlier, March, April, May, June, with the middle of this sitting at mid-April. And again, this is when again, you have to realize that this is, again, this is phase 1 of cycle 2 right here that topped out right in between the 1.414 to the 1.541. And then just the next cycle later, from cycle 2 to cycle 3, we are again in phase 1 here with the W pattern. We're seeing the ABCD, like the lightning bolt looking bull market. That will it do what it did during the last cycle in cycle 2? And will it top out right roughly in the middle or just in between the 1.414 to the 1.541, somewhere within the range of approximately 200 to 300K? I think it's quite likely. That's personally where I lean, but it also could deviate a little bit longer. Again, as I mentioned already, the specificities really doesn't matter. Most people, not that that means anything, obviously a lot of the times the majority tends to be wrong, but that's not, always the case that the majority is wrong. But most people, and a lot of people that have been in this space for years and years, have good knowledge, know what they're doing, are saying that Bitcoin's going to top out, altcoin market's going to top out in 2025. I mean, even just to bring up something that I suppose might be rather controversial within the Bitcoin space with Giovanni Santostasi's power law theory, model, framework, whatever you want to call it, of Bitcoin, with him also projecting basically the same ranges I'm giving in this video, somewhere just around 200 to 300K within that $100,000 range, and also him saying that it's the last time I saw, I think he's mostly been holding to the notion that Bitcoin's going to top out somewhere around like September, October, November of this year, which is later than what I'm currently thinking and what these Fibonacci time tools say. But I mean, nonetheless, again, everything is pointing to 2025, which is really the main point here that needs to be understood. But lastly, again, just to go over this overall impulsive structure here, it maybe perhaps what we'll see here is we'll see Bitcoin kind of shoot up towards around maybe 115 to 130K, see one more retracement, and then kind of go find that support and then move up towards the all-time high. Because as I have been pointing out on, I'll just use this chart on the lower time frames. Let's go back down to the daily. If you look here at the lower time frames, again, as I've pointed out in past videos, you see, looking at the lower time frame structure, these legs of this impulsive structure, you see that the intermediary period is shaped like a megaphone. For the first impulse, it was also roughly shaped like a megaphone here. So will we see this structure translate in self-similar fractal-like fashion towards the higher time frame here on the 2 weekly chart? And each of these times beforehand, you couldn't see that megaphone-like pattern, but because Bitcoin is in the latter stages of the current bull market, it is maturing and it is decaying. We might see, because of that, those principles, we'll see basically this megaphone-like retracement actually manifest here on a higher time frame, whereas each of these prior times here, it didn't do that. But as I clearly showed on that daily chart, there is that megaphone-like structure there, which could translate to this higher time frame. But as always, none of this is meant to be financial advice. All that being said and everything gone over, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Ooh, I'm regretting now.